All right, we're going to talk real quick about spray gun spit. A lot of you guys are having a problem with that, and there's some pretty easy resolutions in how to diagnose the problem on your gun if you're having it and what to do about it. Number one is if you're using a pole, it's going to spit, period. Okay, and if you're using a handgun like this and everything's in good shape, you should get just a very tiny little speck that most people are not going to notice, especially on smooth wall siding or something like that. Maybe on a door, might be a little more conscientious where you trigger. That kind of controls the spit where you want it to be. Usually you want it off the door. If you're doing real high-end custom work, you want to blow past your door and then trigger outside of the surface you're trying to paint. So that's to try and get, and you can use a fine finish tip, which are in, like, instead of a 315, they're a 316. I'm just trying to give you, they have a double orifice tip, and you would not want to use a reverse. You would want to use a reversa because they clog up a lot. And the ones that are in flat tips are really a pain in the ass to clean. So anyway, back to the subject. Let's talk about this spitting issue. There's a couple different things that it can be. Okay, one of them is, let me see if it's got any picture. Somebody always tightens this. I never do that. Anyway, you could take this off. Let me see if I can get it off real quick. And your cone filter could be plugged. If you're using this type of gun setup and you don't have a filter system, you really need to strain your paint. If you're not straining your paint, and even if you are, your filter is going to start to plug up here if you do not have a filter in your rig. So this is an old rig, doesn't have it. Hang on one second. So we're talking about this filter right here, your cone filter that's behind your head if you're using my setup and you're having spit problems. Okay, the other thing that can happen is anywhere between your trigger and the tip where you have these washers that look like this, okay, but it's just a washer like between this part and here. If this isn't tight, or if that has a bad connection in there, there's some paint on it or something like that, it can cause a real heavy spit. I call them, the big ones I talk about that are problems are loogies. That's your big fat spit. You don't want those. Those are bad news. They're going to cause you problems. You're going to have to cover everything because of that. So if you stay off the spray pole, put down the ducky, as I say in some of my videos. Put down the ducky if you want to be a spray man, and if you want to play the saxophone, if you know the song when you're a kid. My kids all watch that stuff when they're little, so I remember that. But put down the spray pole if you want to not have spits. That's a good point. Second thing is make sure that all your connections are tight. Now, if you're still having a major spitting problem, and sometimes when that filter gets plugged up, what it'll do is it'll kind of back up into your stop on your spray gun, and what it'll do is kind of make the trigger stick. So it can fool you. Sometimes your trigger is actually sticking, and it's not really an issue with your packings in your spray gun. So those two things can fool each other. You got to really watch that. Okay, if that filter is plugged, make sure that's not plugged first and kind of run through. The other thing that can happen is you can have paint that's not very well strained. It goes through, it gets stuck in your needle and seat, and it'll cause your trigger to stay on. Now that will fool you between that and a packing issue. So the other thing is if your packing's in your spray gun, which we're going to do a rebuild on one of these, I think it's this one, pretty soon. Yeah, this one's a loose one. Okay, now we're going to rebuild on that. I'm going to show you guys how to do the silver gun rebuild. It's actually very easy to do. I mean, it's like an 8-year-old could do it. So I think anybody watching my videos could do it too. So if your gun keeps spitting after you've done all those things and you checked everything, and you don't have a spray pole, then more than likely your packings are going bad, and you'll need to replace the packings in the spray gun. Stay tuned. That's going to be on the channel pretty soon. Please, you guys, I really need some subscribers here to keep monetization. YouTube just changed the guidelines, so like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend, get them to subscribe. We need 1,000 subscribers before the end of next month. So, or it's going to slow us down on continuing to make videos. So, anyway, those are the issues with spits. You know, if you look at the Idaho painter, he kind of misses a lot of those. So he talks about just the one that he has, which is from a spray pole. So not a bad guy, you know, he just not super experienced in painting. Talk to you in the next video.